Ahsoka Season 1 showed us how beautiful a live-action Clone Wars could be, but is it actually a good idea? And is Star Wars too serious? The new Lando movie might make or break that statement. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your place for everything Star Wars gaming, the TV shows, and the movies. Let's jump in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
Do you think Star Wars is too serious?
I think it's a fair assessment.
You think so?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're just going to jump right into this. There's a bit of a campiness, I would say, that's always there in Star Wars that kind of helps with the seriousness. But in general, I would say that it is pretty serious. I think it's gotten more serious with as they got the newer it gets, the more serious it seems to get.
Yeah.
Because the originals are serious topics, but there's a lot of lighthearted moments, I guess, in it. It's a really weird balance of very serious versus silly, I guess I'll say.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think Star Wars is too serious. No, I think it could take itself a little bit more seriously, honestly. So what we're talking about is in an interview with Childish Gambino, a.k.a. Donald Glover, he had some things to say about his Lando project, which is moving forward, and more than likely it's going to be a movie. He says this, quote, "I just want it to be fun. As a Star Wars fan myself, I think it's important that there needs to be fun being had. It's very hard to have fun right now. It's tough because there are various things happening, and those are the only things that connect us weirdly. So I get why things are serious, but part of the human experience, I believe, is we have a responsibility to have enjoyment, and I just feel like we're lacking in that department. Star Wars can be super serious, sometimes way too serious. Everything that has to do with the Skywalkers is so serious. With Lando, I think the best part about him is he's a scoundrel, and I feel like people can relate to that. And he's probably like, man, this war is whack, I need money, which I feel everyone can relate to. I want to bring fun to Star Wars. I just want it to be fun." I think the way he categorizes it, obviously everyone's like, the Star Wars is too serious, what are you talking about, blah 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 blah. I think what he's getting at ultimately is the people making the Star Wars shows need to have more fun making them. I feel like there is this belief that if you have a Star Wars project, you have to have this respect of the last 40 years, make sure everything fits into canon and everything has to fit this way or that way, otherwise people are going to get upset and they need to go crazy. And I think that's what he's ultimately getting at. I think the direction that most of the news outlets are taking it is in a direction I don't think is accurate. Because I think if you look at The Mandalorian, it has some serious moments, but overall it's kind of campy and it doesn't take itself too seriously. Book of Boba Fett, the same way. Obviously, Andor, its whole intention is to take Star Wars in a serious direction. But I think there is a clear love of storytelling shown in how they have this serious view on Star Wars. So I think it is good intentions to go in this route for Lando. And like he says, Lando's a scoundrel. Lando is this fun character. He is his entirety of his character, especially if you look at Donald Glover playing him in Solo, is this suave dude that talks himself into way too much trouble and has to talk himself back out of that trouble. And I think that's the key thing here is Star Wars, especially with Lando, needs to embrace the little bit of the wackiness there.
There is a strange amount of seriousness that seems to come with the territory of Star Wars, as far as people coming in, trying to make new stories, trying to be respectful of what Star Wars has always been.
Yes.
Somehow they are being too serious about it, but also not serious enough.
Yeah.
It's like
they're more serious about Star Wars than they are about the storytelling.
Star Wars the brand versus Star Wars the story.
Yes.
Yeah. So I could definitely see why, let's have some fun with it. Let's actually have a good time making these stories. And we've not really seen these fun characters like Lando. Lando is definitely much more of a character all in of himself, instead of dealing with this big family drama, it's like, it's kind of, I think it kind of comes with the territory.
Lando is in a very different Star Wars galaxy than the rest of the characters are. Because, like Donald Glover says, he is motivated not by some overarching theme, at least in this point of his life. He's not looking to become part of the rebellion. He's not looking to do this thing to achieve this thing in the bigger picture. Like, he is literally just trying to have fun in the galaxy and make some money. And sometimes those things are the same thing. Sometimes they're not. And I think that's what's key here. And I think what Donald Glover says is true in the actual intentions behind it. That you need to have the story and the structure fit the character you're telling that story about. And for a lot of the times, I feel like this is in particular with the Mandoverse. If you look at The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Book of Boba Fett, you have an identity crisis. You have too many characters vying for control of the theme and voice of the story. And it goes off a little bit and starts taking itself too serious in some ways. Like, we need to add this thing because of Star Wars. And then other ways, it's like, why are monsters showing up every 2 seconds? It's like, oh, because we need to progress the story to do this thing so they can stumble upon this cavern that goes to this other thing that we need to get them to. Yeah. Yeah, remember that? But I think if you fit this kind of story to the character, that is when it's going to succeed. So I'm actually really excited. I think the intentions behind this statement is actually great because he realizes the character of Lando. If you try to put Lando in a story there's a reason Lando isn't in The Mandalorian. Because The Mandalorian is trying to do something very different than the Lando movie would do. Yeah.
I think it's surprising, though, that Lando in the original still works. They definitely play him down versus what Donald Glover will do.
He's not a tool for the rebellion, really.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like when Ahsoka is a part of the Mandalorian, there's a key reason for her to be there, to do X thing, Right. When we have Lando, it's to progress the characters, not the plot.
True. Yeah, that's true. And a little bit of the plot.
He helps, but the real tension there is like the struggle between Han Solo and Lando and Leia, having the like good buddy with Lando and Han to ultimately be betrayed, to have that character growth for Han, to feel the immediate response to trust someone, and then having that trust betrayed moves his character forward in a very interesting way. Versus Ahsoka coming into the fray for the Mandalorian Grogu doesn't necessarily add anything for the characters or their characters' growth or the hero's journey.
Other than finding out Grogu's name.
Yes, that's it. And nobody wanted to know that.
No. We were all good with the child or...
Yeah. So I think there's this...
Baby Yoda.
I like that there's a focus on character versus plot, and I think that's going to be ultimately good. So yeah, I think I'm actually really excited. Donald Glover's an amazing musician, director, actor, writer, producer, insert whatever thing he has done. He's been great at it. Shows like the show Atlanta, Community, the music from Childish Gambino. There is some great stuff there, so I'm excited for him to, one, be saying these things in an interview, and then to see them ultimately come to fruition. So I think this is a good direction.
Yeah.
Moving on, though, what about, we mentioned Ahsoka, we mentioned the Mandoverse. What if we went back? Ever since Ahsoka Season 1, we've had this broadening of some fan casting, obviously. What would it look like if Hayden Christensen returned to Anakin in the Clone Wars, but telling those stories in live action? Well, we got some flashbacks, and we saw what that could look like, right. And it got a lot of people thinking, should there be a live action Clone Wars?
The first thing we have to ask is why?
Yes. The answer to that, like all of Disney's live action remakes of animated shows, is money. But That's a deeper question. Why? What is the motivation? What is the difference? There is, unfortunately, a large group of people in the world that do not take animation seriously. And I think those people are dumb.
Okay. Just slap that in everyone's face.
Yeah, sorry. Animation is great. It's not a thing for kids. It's a thing to tell meaningful stories. Just like you can choose different aspect ratios and different film stocks, whether you want to shoot digital or if you want to shoot film, if you want to be on the TV or if you want to be on the movie. It is a type of medium that you can use to tell a variety of stories that don't just have to cater to kids. Yep. And I think if you're not watching The Clone Wars because it's animated, give it another shot. It is very good. Look up a way to watch it. Every single time I've watched The Clone Wars, it's not been in the way it's supposed to be watched because it's an anthology, blah, 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 blah. I watched it when it was coming out on TV, and one week there would be this episode, and another week there'd be this other episode. So that's how I continue to watch it. I know it's not the right way. Don't do what I do. Watch it how you're supposed to because it's an anthology. Apparently you're supposed to watch like season 2 episodes 4 through 6, and then you go to like season 4 episodes 6 through 7 or something like that.
Oh dang!
There's a way to do this.
I did not do that either. I just went from season 1 on. Just went straight through.
There's an official way to watch it. And I would highly recommend that if you're giving it a chance.
Okay.
Make your life a lot easier. But going into that deeper, that's like the ultimate thing here. I do wonder if there are stories that would resonate better showing them in live action. Because I think there are some things that animation can't do as well as other mediums. Just like you can't tell certain stories as a comedy, but you can tell them as a drama. I think that is the same thing that you can do here. The biggest thing, I think, is just showing how young Ahsoka actually is in that context. Because when you see Ahsoka and you see Anakin, and they're both age accurate, it's crazy when you're like, oh, crap, Ahsoka is a literal child in war.
Yeah.
That adds some weight to a story when you see her seeing the war mates, the clones, bandaged and bruised and bloodied on the stretchers.
Yeah.
That adds another layer of complexity that, yes, you could portray in a different style of animation, probably, but in the broader picture, you can't do it in the Clone Wars style.
Yeah. Bringing the Clone Wars to live action would bring a seriousness. There's that word again. That the Clone Wars was able to kind of just gloss over.
Yeah, it's not saying that there aren't serious moments within the Clone Wars.
There certainly are. But because it's animation, the stakes feel a lot lower, I would say. And they're kind of able to get away with a lot more.
Yes. Yeah, especially in the maneuverability and verticality and aerobatics of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the fun, stylistic way of animation and stuff. But also, just how many times they can break into places and get away with it. It's like, okay, really? If we're going to try to answer, should this maybe happen, I would say it may be a good thing if they're looking to make Clone Wars more concise, or something. If you're trying to make it.
But how do you effectively condense 20-something episodes to 8?
I wouldn't say 8 per se.
I know,
I'm just
but
saying
we're
condensed.
Disney Star Wars here.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's 8.
Yeah, I don't think it can happen, honestly. So probably don't do it.
Yeah,
but.
That's the fear, and that's the thing that I think is going to take away from it, because you really have to commit. I mean, you could do vignettes, you could tell an anthology, but if you tell an anthology, you need to do a miniseries and do a legitimate miniseries. Don't do a Kenobi where you have, yes, it's only 6 episodes, but all of the episodes connect and it feels like a really long movie when it shouldn't feel like a long movie. It should feel like a miniseries, and miniseries have multiple hour-long episodes or even longer than 1 hour episodes.
Yeah.
You need to do a Sherlock not an Obi Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
That's how you make it work. You tell moments within the Clone Wars and have each episode be based on a specific event in the Clone Wars and make it that style.
Yeah.
Don't do, we're going to condense the 20-something episodes of season 1 of the Clone Wars into 8 episodes, because that's going to, one, feel hollow. It's not going to have the proper character development, and you're going to have to assume that people have watched the original medium when that's not how you should start a show. You should not require additional work from the viewer to make an effective show. And I feel like if they condensed all of that, they'd kind of have to.
Yeah, I guess the only other way I would say that it would work would be they're either telling new stories and just a different angle, and we're still getting like some kind of character development that we didn't see before or something. Yeah. Maybe that, but do we even really need that? No.
Yeah, that's the hard thing, is because like the big moments of the Clone Wars have been showcased in the Clone Wars. There have been a lot of people that want the Clone Wars show to continue. I think there are ways to possibly do that. Maybe it's through live action, but I think it would lose a lot of the heart that the animation has. Yeah. I mean, if you look at Bad Batch, the beauty of the animation now, oh my goodness. So I feel like there is this misguided hope that there would be more things like that. And like, of course, if I'm going to geek out, if I'm going to be like the ultimate fanboy over here, like I would love to see Hayden Christensen return to live action Anakin again. I think he does a great job showcased in Ahsoka and the other flashbacks. I think he does a good job. He is a good actor. The problem is, though, if I take a deeper look at this, it's like if you look at the story, like it needs to make sense for the characters and add something to the overall story. And if you're making that consideration to bringing it to live action, is it a movie? Maybe. The first Clone Wars movie kind of sucked, but if we're looking for that return, maybe there is a Clone Wars style movie. Maybe it is live action with Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor returning. That could be interesting. But I do wonder if it's not as big of an audience now as it could have been in the past. Do we want to see more stories, or do we want to retread old ones? I think is the ultimate question that has to be answered with that. Yeah.
There's pros and cons to both. It's just, in both cases, it's, can we tell a good story now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, again, I think it works for flashbacks. I would love to see more flashbacks to add to the character growth and stories there. And maybe it's something like a back and forth style thing. Maybe it is a character deepening moment for Ahsoka or Sabine or what have you, like it was in Ahsoka season 1. Yeah. That could work. I do wonder, I mean, Ewan McGregor has said he wants to return as the character of Obi-Wan. Hayden Christensen said he really enjoyed playing Darth Vader and Anakin, and that was a fun experience for him. He's rejoined the Actors Guild. So there's lots of stuff there in terms of like the real world movement and want for something like that. But I do wonder, with rumors of Disney and Lucasfilm taking a step back from live action TV shows and maybe only having one a year, are you really going to choose to release live action Clone Wars, or are you going to continue the Mandoverse? Are you going to make another season of Ahsoka? Are you going to do another season of X show? Something new. What is going to fill that slot when you only have one slot a year? I think that is going to be the hardest part, especially when there are only 8 episodes per season.
It's just not. That's just cruel.
Yes. It's ridiculous, not really scalable, and I wonder how well it's going to work in the long term. But let us know your thoughts on this. Would you like to see Clone Wars in live action? Again, maybe even broader and bigger? Let us know in the comments below, and also let us know how you feel about Star Wars being too serious and Lando the movie. Let us know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, or contact at uplinkpodcast.com if you're listening to this wherever you find podcasts. As always, thank you for listening, and may the Force be with you.